everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Language Talks. Today we have with us from Mumbai Dr. Manisha Anvekar. Dr. Manisha Anvekar is a spiritual consultant, education facilitator, international seminar leader, speaker, social reformer, and author based out of Mumbai. She founded her socio spiritual organization called Spiritual Connect way back in 1992. So far, she has authored 82 books. She is a proud Rotarian from the Rotary Club of Bombay Northwest, Mumbai. She is also an eminent member of the Ethics Committee of CTC and Bone Marrow Transplantation Center, Borivali, East, Mumbai, as she works there as a social scientist. She has initiated many humanitarian ventures. We will be speaking about it at the end of the interview. It is impossible to speak about all her ventures in one go, in one interview. So today I will focus on her books and her writing. Welcome to the show, Manisha.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Lalita, for giving me this opportunity.
You're welcome. I'm glad to speak to you today. Manisha, starting in Jan 2018, you decided to write a book every month. I find this amazing. This is brilliant. So, how did you come across this amazing idea?
I go on morning walks every day. So one fine day, I was on my morning walk, and this idea just struck to me that you should write one book every month. And I rubbished this idea. I mean, what does it mean, write one book every month? It takes 1 year, 5 years, sometimes 10 years to write a book. And this person, that inner voice, I called it a person. And this person is saying that you write one book every month. So I said, stupid, I won't be able to do it. And has anybody does that before? So the inner voice came, nobody has done that. So you do it, no? Why not? I said, and who will do other things? I have my organization. I have a family to look after. I have so many things to do. I have no time for such stupid things. And the inner voice again came and it told me that I'm there. Don't worry. Just go ahead. I thought, okay, let us give it a thought. And as it is, I was not in any contract with anybody like, that you have to do this, then you will be paid so much of amount. So I thought, let us give it a try. If I could do it, well and good. Even if I'm unable to do it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't cost me anything. So I just started casually and then I figured out that, yes, I can do it. And then it became a very disciplined process. And by this time, like I have completed 78 books in the series of one book every month. My 79th book is coming on 31st July. And in all, I have written 82 books so far. So that's how it started. And by God's grace, I'm still continuing.
Oh my God, this is just amazing. So you heard your inner voice.
Yes, I did.
That's great. You write about spirituality, but in a story form, So now this is really challenging. So how do you do that?
Basically, like every time when I hear people talking about spirituality, they would talk about meditation, yoga, and Reiki, and quite a few things that are called spiritual per se. But for me, spirituality lies in every sphere of your life. Like when you're cooking, when a student is studying, when a couple is coming together, you're doing anything and everything, and it's spirituality. And I do spiritual counseling also. So I have so many case studies with me. So that is also a kind of storytelling and developing your way, in a way that it helps people. So I use the same method for the book writing also. So whatever is there in the book, instead of just giving sermons, instead of saying, I have written most of self-help books. I have written a few novels also. But for self-help books and novels, both are like self-help only. Even my novels are self-help. So instead of giving sermons, do this, don't do that, I just write it in a way that it feels as if I'm talking to you when you read my books. So it's in a story form. It's very difficult to write, but I think I have learned that art, and I have got into this habit of writing it in a form that I like. You know, even I don't like sermons. So I started writing it in that form only.
That is brilliant because nobody likes sermons. So it's
Exactly.
in a story form. And when I read your books, I found it very engaging.
Acceptable also. Then you don't feel as a reader that, oh my God, this lady is just going blah, 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 blah like that. So it becomes more interesting also.
This book, in which you have used Bollywood numbers to speak about letting go of worries. So please tell us about it.
This book just appeared, you know, from nowhere. I was planning to write some other book, but it just appeared that Manisha, you should write this book for, I think, December. I wrote this book 2022. I'm not very sure, but I think so. So I thought that many people look at Bollywood as something that has a negative influence on people, on today's generation. But I have trained myself in such a way that I always see the positive side of everything, because everything comes with two sides. Positivity and negativity are two sides of the same coin. So you just cannot do away with one thing. So instead of looking at the negative things, what they are doing and how they are portraying the world, I figured out that it will be a better way to look at the positive things. And there have been many songs, many numbers in Bollywood that inspired me, that motivated me, even in my dark times. So just to give you just two examples, I chose one song like Ek Chatur Nar. उसमें he says, Mahmood says, अरे एक पे रहना, God achatur, God achatur, ek pe rehna. So this is like, you know, doubt. We all doubt. If I'm going to do this, is it going to work that way? Is it not going to work that way? If it works, then what? If it doesn't work, then what? So instead of, you know, that way, going about anything that way, you should just stick to one thing. And when you stick to one thing, it's like, it's almost done. So this is just one example. Another was that, that was from कोई मिल गया कच्चा नहीं कुछ भी पक्का नहीं कुछ भी. So in that he says, no, पर्दे के गिरते ही पर्दे के उठते ही बदला नहीं जो बदल सकता है ये. So what is that? That means that like first he falls down. So everybody laughs. He tries and he falls. So you should give it a try. Whatever you want to do, you must give it a try. Even if people laugh at you, it doesn't matter. Just get up, dust yourself off, and start again. Third thing is पर्दे के गिरते ही and पर्दे के उठते ही. That means there is nothing permanent. Whatever you have perceived as maybe something that you cannot do or is not for you. When things open, when you change your perspective, things may change. So you should never give up. You should always give it a try. So it's that way. There are beautiful numbers even from old times, and some are new also. So a beautiful book. I loved it.
Yes, you are right. There are so many beautiful numbers with such profound knowledge in it.
Yes.
Tell us about your novel, The Flying Elephant.
So The Flying Elephant is a novel that is basically a Bildungsroman, and it's about a woman, Niharika, and she has gone through a lot in her childhood, and today she's a very successful woman. And there is a function, and her photos and videos and everything is just broadcast everywhere because she has become such a big person now. So this story is about her recurrent dream that she sees every night almost, and where she falls down, she cries, she sees herself bleed and all that. And what are the her challenges and how she, you know, overcomes these challenges, and it's all about that. So the flying elephant is like, we cannot imagine an elephant flying. So it's as impossible as that, but she has been able to do this. And she says that there is nothing impossible, even an elephant can fly. So it's about her journey. So when I was writing this novel, I used to cry because every time I write something, I become one with that. So what she was going through, like, you know, I used to cry. I used to just stop and, you know, wipe my eyes and then write. So you can even feel that, you know, something is stuck over here when I'm talking about it. So every book, like whatever I write, I always get one with the characters. I put that essence into my novels, my self-help books and everything.
Yes, and that can be felt while reading. There is a lot of talk about cafes nowadays, and book cafes, and many more cafes.
Yes.
So your book, Cafe Karma. So that title is catchy, and the description, we serve what you deserve. So that is more interesting. So how did you arrive at this idea of writing Cafe Karma?
Um, Actually, the titles in my books are, I meditate. I mean, I have been meditating since 5 years of my age. So I am always in alignment with the source. So book titles are always they come up during my daily meditation sessions. So this title also emerged when I was meditating, and it was saying that it has to be something karma, and you deserve. We serve what you deserve. So we serve, that means it has to be a restaurant, a cafe, or something like that. So I came up with that title, and it was, very beautiful journey of writing this novel also. And sometimes I come out with 3, 4 titles, and then I discuss these titles with my daughters. So we just churn it, and then we see like whatever suits the best, we choose that. So Cafe Karma, we serve what you deserve, was the best one, and so I went about it.
Yes, yes, that fits the bill, I think.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
And yeah, the story is like there is a place called Kingdom of Illusionia. So
Mhm.
few person just find themselves in that space, and they don't have any material things. They are just wearing one set of clothing. They don't have money. They have nothing. There are rules and regulations, but they're not aware of what these rules and regulations are. They have to figure out everything. But everything is adding to their karma, which they come to know in the last part of the novel, when there is a lot of hullabaloo going on, and there is rains and thunder and lightning and earthquakes and all that. And they rush to a place where they find things are a little better. And when they go there and they order their things, like say, for example, I ordered a pizza, so your pizza and my pizza will be different. So they are shocked to see like, how come this is your pizza is different and mine is different. So the person who comes there, like who he serves over there, so he says that it's karma, so everybody's pizza is going to be different. And one more thing I would like to tell about this novel is the names of the characters are very interesting. Like the person who is serving, he loves to eat hogs like anything, so his name is Petu. And there's a person who gets angry at the drop of the hat. So his name is Angrath. Angry, Angrath. A girl who just daydreams all day long. So her name is Swapna. So like that, Indians will be able to connect with this novel more than compared to, foreigners. And this happens to be, please don't tell anybody. This happens to be my first novel that I have read in my life. I never read novels even in schools. I used to attend my
Oh,
classes in schools. I never loved reading novels. Actually, looking at the thickness, I used to feel averse. I would love Amar Chitra Katha and comics, and I even read scriptures and everything, but novels, no, no. So when I
yes.
wrote this novel, so I had to read it because otherwise it was just first draft. So I had to
Mhm.
make changes in it and edit and everything. So this becomes my first novel that I have read in my life. So now I have started reading novels as well.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you about your passion for literature, because you have written a book on the literature of Swami Tulsidas.
Yes.
So please tell us about it. And if possible, can you share a few couplets from the book?
Yes, definitely. So being a Ram Bhakt myself, I read literature that is related to Lord Ram. And Tulsi Das ji's literature is really like, it always attracted me. So I was thinking if these couplets like I was meditating rather on this subject, that are these couplets that he has written in the past, can these be used in this time also? And I found out that yes, these are also like contemporary, in today's world. So there is one very simple couplet. I have just written them, two or three of them. Like we all know this, आवत ही हर्षे नहीं, नयनन नहीं सनेह, तुलसी तहाँ न जाइए, चाहे कंचन बरसे मेघ. That means where there is no love for you, when you go to meet somebody, if there is no love, you don't see that light, that love in their eyes. तो तुलसी तहाँ न जाइए. You should never go to such place, even if they are very rich, they are very influential, whatever. So whenever you go to meet somebody, there has to be love, affection, respect. So don't just go and fit in. Nowadays people just want to be in all groups, want to be with influencers, want to do things that they feel that they will get something out of it. So they just go and fit in, even if they are not comfortable, those people are not comfortable with them. So I think that this is a very good couplet that can be even used and applied in today's life as well. There is one more thing, like काम क्रोध मद लोभ की, जो लो मन में खान, तौलो पंडित मूर्खो, तुलसी एक समान. जिनके भी मन में, like there is काम, क्रोध, लोभ and मोह, the fire that is burning within such people. So the distinction, goes off whether you are a pandit or you are a murk. There is no distinction between you, because then you behave the same way. So Tulsidas is saying you should never have these things in you. You should be good, you should be calm, you should be open-minded, and you should not be greedy. You should not be very angry on things, frustration and all these things should be kept aside. Then only you will be able to use your mind, use your brain in a very proper way. So that's how it is. Do you want to hear another one, or like you're good with this?
No, I would like to hear one more before we go to the next question.
All right. So one is that तुलसी भरोसे राम के, निर्भय होके सोए, अनहोनी हो नी नहीं, होनी है सो होए. That means whatever is destined will happen, whatever you may do. And whatever is not destined for you will not happen. So whenever you sleep, when you go to sleep at night, sleep with a calm mind. People are so much into future. They just think about different things. So this is about that whenever you are sleeping, whenever you're sitting, don't give too much, think about what will happen today and what will happen tomorrow and all those things. So whatever is destined will happen, whatever is not destined will not happen. But that does not mean that you should stop working to achieve your goals. Okay, yeah, definitely. I'm not working, so I'm just sitting and my book will be written. No, it will not be done. So I have to do it, but I have to also be at peace of mind.
Yes. Stay calm like that.
Stay calm, stay at peace, yeah. And keep doing your work.
Right. Your book, Spiritual Idioms. So I found that name interesting, and the idioms are interesting too. So also tell us, how did you coin this title, and what does it aim?
So I see nowadays, like on social media, many people use these spiritual idioms just like that. So like what you sow, so shall you reap. We have been reading this since childhood. Or what goes around comes around. Or one thing that I really don't like that people say is karma is a bitch. Please don't say that. Karma is not a bitch. Okay. Right. So to tell people that this is not something casual. Okay. Don't take it just casually that karma is a bitch. Sorry. I'm really sorry to say that. So karma is everything that you do. So Spiritual Idioms book is that tells you everything about that particular idiom, because spiritual idioms have a deeper meaning. For example, what goes around comes around. So we just think that whatever is happening will come back to you, so that you should behave in a good way. You should be positive. you should smile more, and you should not disrespect somebody and all that. That is one thing. But if I tell you the exact spiritual meaning of this idiom, it is whatever you are doing, the karma will come back to you. And how you perform this karma, that I have discussed in this. So you're not doing karma only by any deed, by any action. When you think, when you speak, and when you do something, these three are the ways you perform your karma. So even unconscious thoughts, even unconscious deeds, unconsciously said words, they are all also counting to your karma. You are accumulating karma in all these forms. So it's not only that what you are doing outside, but what you are doing inside also is going to affect you and your life. The same is the case with what you sow, so shall you reap. So whatever you are doing today, because karma is a concept that does not only belong to this incarnation. Like there are many people who may not believe in this concept, but it is true. So everything that you are doing today may or may not be giving you the effect in this incarnation. So you will bring that also along in your next incarnation. So these are the deeper meanings to this.
Glad that you have explained everything about it.
Thank you.
So Manisha, you are writing all these books, one book per month, but all the books require editing. And editing, I think, is a very important process of any publishing industry. So who does this editing for you?
My daughters. I have two beautiful daughters. So they edit my books. So my every book goes through 4 rounds of editing. The first is obviously done by me. And after that, one of my daughters does that, then the other one. And then all 3 of us sit together and then we just polish the book. So I'm really so glad that God has given me everything, in-house. So I do not have to wait for my file to go somewhere, then they edit, they send the changes, then I make changes, then I send the book to them and all that. And they are both studying, but still they find out time for me because they are also want to help me this way. And you will notice that even though they have not done any professional courses in editing, but they are excellent editors, and I really wish them luck in this career also if they wish to pursue it.
This is amazing. So it's an in-house production.
Yes.
Fantastic. I wish them all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lalita.
Having discussed a few of your books, not everything, of course, I would like to ask you about your mentoring of 8,000 children and adults who are diagnosed with or undiagnosed cases also of learning disabilities. So you have shared the experiences in your book, of course, learning disabilities. So I'm eager to know those experiences also.
Yeah. So I think the concept of this book, I think I thought about not about the book, but about the concept. When I was also a young child, a student, and I would see many of my friends not getting good marks, not getting good grades. And for the same thing, they used to get scolding from teachers, from parents. Some used to fail. So I always thought that there's something different that these people are unable to understand. And they were very sincere students and they were very good at other subjects. Some of them were not good at math. Some of them were not good at languages. Some of them had some comprehension issues. So I did not know that there is anything like learning disability. But I had something in my mind that something is different from us. So I used to help them with that. And I always like to study in a way like making mnemonics or making charts and the tree and, everything. So I used to find it very easy to remember, easy to solve. So I used to tell them these things, give it a try with this, and I think you will be able to perform better. So I think the seeds were sown at that time. And then slowly I came into this. And when I started my spiritual counseling sessions, so parents used to come with their children that my child doesn't perform well in class, he or she is not interested in studies. And maths, so he doesn't understand a word, a number of maths and quite a few things. And these children also used to be like very scared. Oh my God, what this man is going to do to me. And they had very low self-esteem, less of confidence and all these things. So if the disability was diagnosed, it made my work easier, because then I understood like how to go about it. But children and even adults, they used to come to me, and I used to figure out that I feel that there is something lacking. So I'm not a psychologist, so I cannot diagnose this. I'm also not a pediatrician, so I cannot diagnose this. So I used to write to their schools, or I used to ask the parents to talk to their principals and get a letter from them and go to a government medical college and get them evaluated for learning disabilities. So this way I help them. And basically the parents also have low self-esteem. They think that my child is not like other children. They start comparing them. And most of the people want their children to become doctors and engineers and whatever. And if the child is not good at maths, I mean, if he or she has a difficulty in that, then how he or she is going to become an engineer? So this way they used to have a lot of things at home, like shouting and screaming and punishments and this and that. So I help them with raising their self-esteem, their self-confidence, and suggesting a plan. There are accommodations given by government for these children in exams. They can use calculator, or they have extra time, or there are different, I mean, accommodations given to them. They also have IEP, that is called Individual Education Plan, for these children. So that also helps. So I see many of these children becoming engineers, doctors, lawyers, dancers, authors, and singers. And, it really feels very good that somewhere you help them, realize their dream. So that's how I help them.
This is amazing, Manisha.
Thank you.
You have co-authored a book with your daughter, Anubhuti.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about it.
So when I started writing one book every month in 2018, I think it was somewhere May, when my daughter just asked me that, Mama, I would like to write one blog post every week. So there are 52 weeks, and she completed 52 blog posts in June 19. So, and that was the time she was in 12th grade and she was doing her A levels. So there was already a lot of pressure of studies and all that. And we also had a few things like on personal front where something happened. So we were going through that also. But besides all this, she kept focused on writing her blog post every week. So by the time she finished her 50th post, this thought just came to me, and I thought, why not create a book of her blog posts and give it as a gift to her, and without telling her. I mean, she was not aware that I'm doing something like this. I'm, a conspiracy and all that. So while writing my book, I used to copy her blog posts from her blog, and I was making a book silently. In the meantime, I asked my elder daughter, who was doing her MBBS, so to write a foreword for her. And I wrote two chapters, the first introduction and the last chapter, conclusion. And a few of our friends, relatives, and acquaintances were requested to write a few words for her, to encourage her to keep writing. So that's how I prepared the book and I got it printed. And after her 52nd blog was complete, blog post was complete. So I said, let us have a celebration, like, we will call very close friends and relatives. So just 25 people, and she was coming there just for celebration, that people will bring her bouquets and this and that. And when we went there, I presented that book to her and I asked her to open it, to unwrap it. So when she unwrapped it, she saw her name. There is a book, Anubhuti Anvekar and Dr. Manisha Anvekar. So that way she was very happy. So while I was doing this, I also felt very inspired that she also was going through quite a few things at emotional level, but she completed that, and it was great, wonderful experience for me to co-author my book with her. So basically, it's her book, and I have just written 2 chapters in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And inspired her to write.
Yeah.
That is the main thing, I think.
Yeah.
Just like you inspired your daughter, you are also encouraging others to write through your essay competition.
Yes.
So I think it is an international essay writing competition, right?
Yes.
And is it organized every year? Can you tell us
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, it is organized every year. I started this competition also in 2018, and this is the 7th year now. And 5th August is like we celebrate 5th August as World Spirituality Day. So 5th August is the last day to submit essays, and we ask for a word file so that we can make it in a book. So all the selected essays appear in my book. They are published in my book in September. And every participant gets a digital certificate of participation. And after evaluation, there are 3 rounds of evaluation for every essay. And after these, the essays that are selected, they appear in my book. So these children are also given a certificate of excellence. And the schools that enrolled more than 25 students are given a digital certificate of holistic school. And if any individual or their family would like to go, and if all the family has enrolled and they have submitted their essays, so we give a holistic family award also to them. That is also a certificate, digital certificate. So earlier it was only for school going children, but I think from 2020 or 2021, I really don't remember exactly. So from there, we extended it to even people who are above 18 years. So that is called a super senior category, and now everybody can participate it, irrespective of their ages. So this is a value-based education competition.
Okay.
So I saw that all competitions are for mathematics or science or languages, and like mainstream subjects. And value education is something that is a graded subject and nobody really bothers about it. Neither students nor teachers nor parents. So I thought, and I saw that we used to study this subject, my daughters and me, I mean. So I noticed that my daughters are very different. Their thought process is very different. And I could figure out that this is because of this value education also given to them right from their childhood. So I thought, when I can do it for my children, then why shouldn't I do it for others? So we come up with topics that are related to something that will add value to their lives. So this is how it is.
Fantastic. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
This competition.
Thank you.
Manisha, it is your mission to educate everyone in different walks of life, like exercise, it could be diet, food, spirituality, and many more things. And you are trying to achieve this through various of your humanitarian ventures or activities. So, would you like to share some of them with us?
Yes, indeed.
Please.
And this question is very close to my heart because all my initiatives are very close to my heart. And I should tell you that the proceeds from the sale of my books are also 100%, like they are diverted to fund my initiatives. So a few of them are like after my mom, she passed away in 2014 of a terminal illness. So I noticed what we were going through, on emotional and mental and physical front. So after her passing away, I started this initiative, Aroh, that is Asha, a ray of hope. Her name was Asha. So in this initiative, terminally ill patients, their families, they contact me because I'm also a part of Indian Association of Palliative Care. So they contact me and I give them free counseling sessions for their life. So to the terminally ill patients as well as their families. The second initiative I would like to talk about is Stop Suicides, Life is for Living. So I give free counseling sessions to people who are depressed and who feel that there is just darkness in their life and there is nothing left, I mean, and they want to die by suicide. So I always tell them that suicide is no solution and no way. There is something there. You can find out solutions from within, and I pep up, I give them counseling sessions so that they can lead their life in a beautiful way. And one is Jeevan Sawarne Ke Mantra. This was my first Hindi book. It's a small book, 65 pages. And I wrote this book for prisoners in Indian jails because I felt that there is a reason why people behave that way, why they commit crimes. And so I wrote this book for them, and it was inaugurated in Bhaikala jail by the superintendent of police. So we went there, I gave them a pep talk. There were 400 prisoners sitting right in front of me, us. And after that, I gave them a small meditation, and then we distributed this book, and it is distributed free of cost. So I felt very light after that, that I'm adding some value to their life. I'm giving them a, what do you call, a ray of hope. So that way. And one initiative that I started in 2023 is Walk India Movement. And through this initiative, I aim to make India a healthier and happier country by 2030. So that, and about allergies also, wherever we go, and here in Mumbai also, in restaurants and in hotels, I conduct this free. It's also a free program. So people still do not know about food allergies. They just feel that maybe there is some rash and itching and something like that. But I have had anaphylactic shock because of a food allergy. So, and I have multiple allergies. So this is an awareness program for people in hospitality industry. So I think
Okay,
this is, there are many more, but yeah, because of the time constraint also, I would like to, yeah.
These are very important initiatives. People should know about it. I'm glad you're doing this for the society. I wish you all the best for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Lalita. I really need wishes and love from people.
Definitely. Although it was brief, we came to know about your books. And I hope you continue this mission of writing one book per month. And I keep reading it.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
So all the best and good luck and have a good day.
Thank you so much for your wishes and love, and good day to you too. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for joining me in conversation with Manisha. See you in the next episode. Till then, have a good day and goodbye.